Hello, everyone. Basically, I worked in the public, and what I would see was a pattern in people, a pattern in behavior in couples. The pattern manifested as neuroticism, anxiety, yelling at each other, acting spiteful against each other, even acting hateful. It put me in an awkward position. I didn't want to be in the middle of a heated argument between a married couple, especially an older married couple. But I quickly came to realize something because I came to realize it in myself first. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I lived with older folks. I lived with my grandparents. I lived with my granny. These folks came from a time when they had nothing. There were wars. There was depression. There were shoe rations. People needed a sticker or a stamp to get a pair of shoes. If you had more than one kid, they could get a pair of shoes every few years, alternating with their siblings. True story. They saved money because they learned from their hardships, or going without for endless periods of time. They developed frugal habits. I'm not frugal. I'm just putting that out there. Older generations instilled, I don't want to say fear, because that wouldn't be fair to them. They were not trying to instill fear. They were trying to instill frugal values in their offsprings. They were trying to instill how to stretch a buck. They were trying to say, hey, your budget for groceries could go way further if you bought some beans in a bag, not a box or pre-cooked, and boiled them yourself on the stove. Or, hey, your budget could stretch a lot further if you spent $1 on a pack of hot dogs for 6 kids. But I think sometimes what happens is that the people that grew up under this advice, perhaps my generation, Gen X and younger, or perhaps younger boomers, they grew up listening to this. And while the older folks were trying to help, not harm, it instilled a fear in people. What I noticed working in the public, especially with couples, they were afraid to spend money and could often not agree on how much to spend. I worked in car sales for 3 months. Couples would come in thinking they wanted to buy a car. They didn't know what the car cost. They had just seen things online. Or maybe an ad on television advertising a leased vehicle for $199 a month. Not realizing that was the basic of basic cars. It's not going to have your sunroof. It's not going to have, your heated seats. It's not going to have leather interior. It's your basic model that they put on lease specials. But they had in their head all the features they wanted, but they wanted it for that price. But as soon as they learned they weren't getting it for that price, the model they wanted was maybe the top tier model. You saw the neuroticism coming out. In other words, you've heard of the phrase claws are coming out. You saw them getting upset, maybe with each other, maybe with the salesperson, sometimes with me. And they would act like they would never act anywhere else. Of course, people want to save money. They want to know how to save money. They try to be the best they can be with the money they have and make it stretch. But the one thing I've noticed even in myself, which I can recognize in other people, inside of them feels off. When I'm out in public, and it's different if I'm sitting in front of my phone shopping. If I'm sitting in front of my phone shopping, I feel like I have more control because I'm sitting here and I can pick and choose what I want. If it's too much, I take it out of my cart and go on to the next thing type of thing. But when people are out in public, they feel pressured. Their spouse is with them. And they feel pressured. Now, why do they feel that way? Nobody's twisting their arm. Nobody's sitting there going, no, you can't have that. Or, yeah, you can't have that. It's that little voice. It's that little voice we have in the back of our head from the people that loved us and did not intend for this to happen to us. Their intentions were wholesome and good. But it's that little voice nagging. You need to be frugal. You need to stretch that buck. You shouldn't spend that much. Because the people in my life, the older generations, they never bought anything. My grandmother had one pair of dress shoes from the 1950s because she'd be darned if she spent a dime on shoes. She thought it was unreasonable because as a kid, she only had a pair of shoes because she had rationed shoes. She was given a coupon or a stamp and she got her pair of shoes. She had siblings, so she wasn't allowed to get a pair of shoes every year. So she prized and cherished those shoes. But the thing about it is, the older generation had no choice. They weren't given the selection of stuff we have now. It wasn't in their face. It wasn't on a cell phone. It wasn't on a shopping app. They could only get what they could get, and that's how they lived. It was only for necessity. Not for want. It was for need. So I've noticed this in myself. When I'm out shopping, but I get nervous. I feel it. I feel it brewing in me. Do I really need this $10 shirt? No, I don't need this $10 shirt. I have 200 shirts. What do I need this for? Even if I need a new shirt. It doesn't matter. I feel that way. I think about all the clothes I have in my wardrobe and it makes me sick to feel like I need that shirt. Think about it. Next time you're out in public and you're with your partner, friend, spouse, parent, you go out with your parent, watch yourself and think about it and see how it affects you to be in a situation where you're thinking about spending money. See the nerves boil up. It's because that was what was ingrained in us. That was what was expected of us. That was what was told to us. It's almost like we're defying our own parents by spending money on ourselves. I remember my grandfather, when I needed a car, I had a car, but it broke down. It broke down in the middle of an intersection. I almost got hit by 4 different vehicles. He was mad at me because I needed to go buy a car and I had to have a car payment. This was early 1990s. He was ashamed. What you mean, girl? You didn't save your money for that car? No. I went to college. That's where my money went. How was I supposed to do that and save for a car? And you know what? My first car was about, I want to say it was like $12,000. It could have been 10. Now I can't remember the total. I don't have a receipt or anything. He was ashamed of me. How could you not? You didn't listen to anything I said. You didn't listen to anything I told you. Your whole life, save your money. Because that's how it was back then. Because that's what they did. To protect themselves, their family, to provide for their needs, not wants. That's where the mindset came from. And that's why today I believe people have a little bit of neuroticism in them for feeling guilt about spending a dime over than what they should be. Because you're looking at those $60 shoes and you have 20 pair of shoes. What do you need another pair for? And that's what happens. You feel that inside, like you feel that shame. You feel that guilt. You feel that energy coming at you from the people who taught you, from the people who molded you and raised you. But ultimately what ends up happening is because people don't understand it and it makes them feel anxious, they lash out. They lash out at the spouse. They lash out at their friend. They lash out at their parent. Or their parent lashes out at them right in the store. So next time you're shopping, watch for it. Feel it. if your bills are covered, if you're not drowning in debt, if you're a responsible person, don't feel guilty about buying something nice for yourself. Because if you spend all that time feeling guilty, it turns into worry. And that worry turns into shame. And that shame affects us more than the $60 you spent on the shoes. So while the advice is good, save your money, sure. But don't let that guilt erode you from the inside out and create an atmosphere of strife around you. Just like it's okay if you also want to, instead of buying the shoes, putting the money aside for something else or savings. Either way, it's your choice, your decision, it's your life.